Have you ever went out shooting and you pull the trigger and suddenly there's no bang and you didn't know what to do? No worries, I'm here to help. My name is David Avalon. I'm the owner of the Nevada Shooters Club, and today we'll be talking about how to deal with misfires. All right, so once again, I have a unloaded Beretta 92FS. We'll verify there's no round in the chamber. Magazine well is empty. Okay, we do have a magazine loaded with dummy rounds. Okay, these are not live rounds, so we're safe here. Okay, now when you pull a trigger and you don't get the expected bang, okay, there's typically one of three things that's happening. You're either having a misfire, a hang fire, or a squib load. All right, and we'll define those three really quickly. A misfire is when there's a failure to ignite the cartridge, right? So that means one of two things. Either A, you have a dummy round, okay? So basically, if we think about the fireworks analogy, we have a dud, right? You lit a firework, fuse went off, and nothing happened, right? That's more commonly what would happen, right? And you would know that because after you ejected that round, you would be able to look at the back of the round and you should see that there was a dimple, right? Which would be essentially the firing pin that's striking the primer. If there was no dimple on your round, then you would have the second situation, which is that your firing pin's damaged. That would be a big problem, especially if you were in a defensive shooting situation. It's pretty much, it's a game over there. Your gun's not operable at that point, and you need to get it repaired. Normally, you have a dummy round, right? So that would be the first case, misfire. The second one is hang fire. And a hang fire is when you have a delayed ignition. So again, fireworks, think about that firework which you lit the fuse, you ran away from it, the fuse ran out, and then you're just waiting and nothing's happening, and you start going back to it and then it blows up, right? That's what a hang fire is. Essentially, it does ignite, but it doesn't blow up right away. Now, you might be asking, how would I know the difference between a misfire and a hang fire? It's a good question because you really wouldn't, right? If it took more than like 4 or 5 seconds, you might think, oh, this is just a misfire, and then all of a sudden, then the round ignites. So normally, not as big a deal. When you're at the range, the typical protocol, people would have you wait anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds after pulling the trigger, keeping the gun pointed in a safe direction before ejecting the round, right? Now, you might ask, well, what happens if I ejected a round and then after I ejected it, it ignited and blew up? The round, without the barrel containing the force of the explosion, doesn't have the same lethal effect, right? Because essentially without the barrel containing the force, and again, the barrel has grooves that helps give the bullet that straight trajectory path. If this round just ignites here, it's just gonna blow up and scatter around as far as the bullet's concerned. It's not gonna be fun to get hit by it probably, but it's not gonna be a fatal shot like you were getting shot from a real gun. All right, so which brings me to the second point, which is if you're in a defensive shooting situation and you pull the trigger and nothing happens, you're not gonna wait 30 seconds before shooting again, right? Like you're gonna have to clear that malfunction and get it back to shooting right away, okay? And we'll talk about how to clear that in a moment. The third situation I have is a squib load. And the squib load is that half exploded firework, right? Have you ever seen the cartoons like like Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd? He shoots and the bullet just goes like boom and just pops out of the gun. That's like an oversimplification of a squib load, right? Where basically there was less than normal pressure developed in the cartridge, so the bullet doesn't fly out as hard. The squib load is actually the one you want to be the most careful for, because if the bullet, excuse me, if the bullet doesn't fully exit the barrel, it could end up being lodged midway in the barrel. And the casing will eject. And if I go to shoot again, guess what? I have one bullet that's stuck halfway in the barrel that's going to be collided with that next bullet. That's going to make a bad time. All right, gun's gonna blow up in your hand. Not good. All right. So, how do you avoid that? Well, when you do have a squib load, you're gonna, since it didn't generate the same amount of explosion that it normally does, you're gonna feel less recoil. There's less muzzle flash. The sound is not gonna be as strong, and you'll feel that there was something off. And when you feel that something off, you should stop shooting and inspect your gun, right? Especially if you were shooting at a target at the range and you totally missed, chances are maybe it didn't fly straight, so then you would want to inspect your gun. And what you'll be looking for is to make sure that there isn't a bullet lodged in your barrel. Now, I would obviously unload your gun, make it safe, and I would look down that barrel and I should be able to see daylight. Now, again, never put your body or point the barrel at you. You might need to flash a light or flash a light through your phone or whatnot. Try to see if you can see light through it if you're having a hard time looking through it. But if it's obscured and you can see something's in there, now you're gonna have to figure out how to get that bullet out of that barrel, right? Either way, not a good time, all right? With all that being said, that's more rare, okay? Usually, most of the time, you deal with misfires, right? Now, let's talk about how to clear them, okay? So I'm gonna take the safety off, load the magazine in. It's hot now, right? So let's say I'm out, I'm shooting, boom, and I shoot, I got a good shot, and then I pull the trigger again, and let's say it didn't go bang, all right? At that point, I'm gonna go into a basic clearing drill, which is tap, rack, assess, right? So I'm gonna tap, rack, and assess, meaning that I reevaluate my target, whether I need to shoot again, right? So what did I do there? I try to address many of the issues that would cause misfire. Okay, or essentially, the first one is if the magazine wasn't fully seated, like right now it isn't, it's off. By giving it that tap, and you hear that click, now it's fully seated. The second thing I'm doing is the rack. And the rack is going to do a few things. One, if there wasn't a round in the chamber, because maybe I forgot, when I do the rack, it's going to get around the chamber. And the second is if we didn't get a good extraction or ejection of a round that's in the chamber, it's going to do that. And third, if you had a bad round, this gets like a dummy round, it's going to help get that round out. Sometimes you have an extraction or ejection issue where you have something like this, where you have what's called like a stovepipe, right? Where you shot, but then the casing got stuck, okay? So this is gonna prevent you from being able to shoot because as you can see, the slide now is half open. It's not gonna be in battery, right? So your tap rack will also help clear that. Now, one of the things though, you wanna try to make sure that you make it easy for that casing to get out. If I keep the gun pointed straight, it might not fall out right. So it's a good idea that when you do your tap rack, I tap and I rack, you notice I'll slant my gun off to the side so that round can come out, right? Excuse me. Especially with the Beretta where the slide and the breech is top side versus like your Glocks and many semi-autos, which is on the right side. If I keep the gun pointed straight up, it might not fall out as easy. So turning it and canting it to the side will allow any casings that get stuck to come out. All right, so again, just another important thing there. So the basic drill here is, again, I'm shooting, boom, I get my shooting position, I shoot, 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 shoot. I have a misfire, tap, rack, boom, and then assess. And just like I had mentioned before, when we do the rack, I'm letting the slide drop. We're not riding the slide, meaning that I'm not gonna rack here and then try to control it coming down. That's how you get into, I couldn't have orchestrated that more perfectly, right? Look what happened, right? Because I was going slow, that round got stuck. And now I'm gonna have to tap, rack, and fortunately that was my last round. So now gun locks open, right? So in this video, we covered the three basic malfunctions that you can have when you shoot and it doesn't actually go bang, right? Which was the misfire, the hang fire, and the squib load. And our basic way of clearing a misfire situation is with a tap rack, okay? Again, we tap, rack, boom, and assess. Thank you for watching this video. I hope this helped. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, feedback, go ahead, write them below. If you did like this video, do me a solid and share this with a friend, post it on social media, anything that helps. Thank you.